Hi guys, I know it's been a while since I recorded a vlog. Um, Life's been a little rough lately for me, emotionally, mentally, that kind of thing. And honestly, I have been lacking the motivation to do any sort of vlogging. But today I decided, you know what? Let's do something. Let's talk about grief, right? Oftentimes we don't know how to put a name to something that we may be feeling or experiencing. We may have all sorts of different emotions that we can't comprehend, and no matter what we do, whether you resort to drinking alcohol, you resort to smoking weed, you resort to binging on a TV show, some people resort to having sex and having multiple partners because they're trying to fill that void. And many a time it's something that is occurring inwardly rather than it is outwardly. That's why things outwardly can't really fill or fix what needs to be done internally. So the topic of grief, in my opinion, is a wide topic. It's a conversation that a lot of people don't like to get into because it causes us to do some self introspection and to rehash some trauma that was painful, that we would have swept under the carpet and really have to process and heal, because going out through life we can't always be passive about our pain and our difficulties, because later on in our lives, some way or the other, it always comes back. It always, rears its head. And sometimes it comes in the form of self harm or harm to a really good relationship that God would have given to you, would have blessed you with. So grief is something that impacts a lot of us. I think it's something that happens on a daily basis throughout our lives, from childhood to adulthood. And while I am not a certified psychologist, right? If you are really going through, any sort of grief, depression, mental health issues, I really do suggest that you see a certified clinical therapist, because they would give you the necessary tools that is required for you to get through whatever emotional trauma that you would be experiencing. My help, my experiences really and truly comes from the things that I would have gone through. So whatever I am discussing with you all in this vlog is based on my experiences, my personal experiences, and how I've been coping with it, because it's not something that we can just wish away on a whim. If you're a religious person and you grew up in the Christian faith, they would tell you to plead the blood of Jesus over it, and you would plead the blood of Jesus and you would still have grief, because these things is something that you have to process through on, for yourself, and to be honest with other people. I believe in having conversations and being transparent as to where you are at, with people that you trust, with people that you lean on, whether it's your parents, whether it's a teacher, whether it's a pastor, a youth leader, a good friend, someone that you could talk to. God, He's obviously the number one person that you can speak to about your problems and be honest with Him about it. But it's important when dealing with grief that you be honest about where you're at in your life. So let me just give a definition of grief that I found on the internet. Right, that's my quotations. So grief is a natural response to loss. It's the emotional suffering you feel when something or someone you have is taken away from you. Now, I understand that a lot of us only know grief in the context of a death in the family, a death to a loved one. That's when you at a funeral, you're gonna hear about grief very often. But some things we experience in our lives can cause us grief on a daily basis, like I mentioned before. It could be the loss of a job, it can be rejection, it can be a breakup, it can be failure in your schoolwork, it can be, grief, where you're at in your life right now. Thinking, when I was a teenager, I thought that when I would have been 26, I would have had all this wealth and I would have had all this magnificent career. I would have had the perfect body. I would have had the perfect spouse. And now you're at the age that you're at right now, and it's like you feel as though everything is just mediocre. Things aren't adding up, and you experience grief and you go through bouts of depression when you look at what other people are experiencing in their lives. Some of your classmates, some of your childhood friends, the lives that they're living seem to be greater than yours, and that's why it's important for us not to compare ourselves and where we're at to other people, because comparison can bring grief into your life. I believe that social media plays an important role in a lot of people's lives. I believe that social media is one of the, if I had to diagnose a symptom, what causes grief in a lot of young people, I would say social media, because here you are looking at all your favorite celebrities and you're looking at all these social influencers, and they seem to be living their best lives, and you're here as if you're stuck in the mud and you're viewing the world and your worldviews through their lenses, rather than going out there and experiencing it for yourself and doing it for yourself, will cause grief. Because you would think that every time you start something, whether it's a business, whether it's a project, it seems to fail, because you're thinking, I'm not good enough, I'm not motivated enough. You start something and you stop. I mean, I'm living proof of someone that I would start a project and I wouldn't finish it. I wouldn't continue with it, because I would compare myself to other videographers and other vloggers, and their channel and how successful they have been, and I could dream, right? But if I'm not producing content on a regular basis or just throwing it out there, then how am I expecting to get any sort of success at whatever I'm doing? And in my life, throughout my life, consistency for me has always been difficult. For me to be consistent, I have to push myself mentally. And when I feel like giving up, that's when I have to dig deeper and push that one more. That one more. I'm not a clinical psychologist, right? But as I said, I can speak from my experiences, and I can say that when I do give myself that one more, it does something different for me mentally. It pushes me mentally on a different level, and that's when I feel as if I can dominate the world. When I tell myself, just go that extra mile, just do that one more, don't give up, keep pushing. And honestly, we have to learn how to be our own hype kings and queens. We have to learn how to be our own cheerleaders. We have to learn ourselves. We have to know our ups and our downs. And we have to learn how to just cheer for ourselves. Cheer yourself on. Get yourself out of that. You know. And for me in my life, I've been grieving. I've been grieving the loss of a community that I thought I would have been there basically for the rest of my life. But I was disappointed. I was hurt. They said all sorts of things about me. I was there since I was a teenager, and no one's perfect. And I had to pray for those people, not just for myself, but not just for them, but for myself, so that I wouldn't have bitterness on the inside of me, so that I wouldn't have unforgiveness, because those things aren't healthy, right? But grief can, trauma can cause grief, right? And look at the world around us. We are walking, talking, breathing, living trauma victims. Whether you want to admit it or not, we just went through an entire pandemic over the past 3 years, and every single day the media, they seem to, in my opinion, they seem to be making up all sorts of diseases and sicknesses now, to have you in a constant state of panic. Now, I am not WHO. I am not a conspiracy theorist, so don't take my word as Bible. But I'm saying, like, sheesh, we just went through an entire shutdown, a global shutdown, and people were wondering, like, what's gonna happen next. People lost their jobs, they lost their families, they were in fear when this thing started to happen, when the amount of people were losing their loved ones, their lives, like, whether you were young, old people were just dropping down from this COVID. So the world is going through trauma. We are traumatized, and there's a lot of grief out there, and we try to fill that void with material things. But in as much as I do believe that having money is a part of happiness, it doesn't fill that void that's on the inside of you. And I remembered listening to a podcast, and I know that there are phases of grief. There is the not dealing with the reality that you're actually grieving, and then you have to come to terms with the fact that you're grieving, and you have to give yourself that time to grieve the loss as well, because we live in a world that talks about getting back on your feet and going and pushing, and you're never giving yourself that time to deal with that loss, and that can cause burnout physically and mentally. So I believe that you allow yourself time to grieve your past, time to grieve, give yourself that time to just cry it out, to talk it out, to scream it out, to curse it out, to pray it out. Do whatever it is that you believe is necessary for you to deal with that grief, right? Grief is part of it's a part of being sad. It's an emotion. We are human beings. We are not robots. So you are allowed to feel sad. You are allowed to have grief, but don't allow the grief to become your lifestyle. You accept it, and you learn how to manage it, right? I know a lot of people, they recommend all sorts of prescriptions, all sorts of medications. That's a choice. That's everyone's choice. That's on you. If you want to take antidepressants, if it is you believe that it's going to help you, that's your choice. That's your prerogative, right? As long as it helps you to get back on your feet and to learn from your grief and learn from your experience and just allow it to develop you into a better human being. That's how I see it. That's how I view grief. That's how I view grieving. Over the past 3 years, I've lost 2 family members, not via COVID, but other life choices, other life decisions. And I've also lost a really good hairdresser of mine that I've been going to for years, and she died because of COVID, right? So many things are just happening around me that it's like, oh my gosh, almost to the point of saying, you're telling yourself, oh, okay, another one's gone, and you kind of come destigmatized from, is that the word? Desensitized, that's it, desensitized of death, because so much people died that you're just like, oh, another one's gone. So the word is desensitized. But yeah, another thing that you can do to deal with grief, I know that a lot of people, working out is so important, because it helps produce those endorphins that adds to your happiness, for you to be in a better mood. A lot of people shy away from exercising, but exercising is so important for us who are physical human beings. And you don't have to go to the gym to exercise. You could go on nature walks. I know a lot of people like hiking. You could go kayaking. You could just be outdoors and savor nature all around you. Instead of just staying inside and in a dark room and wallowing over, what could have been or what should have been. You know, give yourself the time, of course, yes, to wallow, but also give yourself time to recover and to heal, which means taking yourself up and doing things that makes you happy, that will add to your happiness. I would add to your emotional health, right? It's so important for us to maintain a good emotional health in this day and age, because there are so many things happening around us that will cause us to just be sad, that will cause us to have a lot of grief, that will cause us to be depressed. But drowning out what's going on outwardly and focusing on what's happening internally is so important. It's so important, and it's so important to balance that as well. So, with that being said, I've come to the end of my vlog, and I would like to thank each and every one of you who tuned in to this vlog, who clicked on that follow, to subscribe to my channel. I'm so thankful to the viewers. You all are the greatest, and I really do hope that my vlogs do help and inspire and encourage anyone who's going through any of the topics that I would have discussed, and leave a comment, like the video, share it with other people that you think it would help and impact. And thank you all so very much, and I pray that God be with you all, and that you all just become the best human beings that you can be in this life and forever. So until next time, bye guys.